I like that for that one you just went clap.
Clap, record.
Yeah, I just started recording now, so it's just gonna start with me laughing at you just saying clap.
Record.
The onomatopoeia.
Yes.
Hey everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to a new episode of the podcast where we ask the question, remember the Aughts?
Courtney, do you know what time it is?
Is that a lead into a joke?
No, it's do you know what season?
Like what time
do you know
it is?
What season we're in?
Oh, fair enough. You know what? I do have a beverage that is apropos to this season as we speak.
We're in it, boys. Well, I've been in it for a while, but it's official.
Boys, girls, sea monsters, gather round, because it is time for us to do Tom's favorite season.
It's the best season.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest season of all, the thing I live for, the thing that my apartment looks like every day. These orange lights don't come down. 30-year-old with Halloween lights up, whatever. It's fine. I'm adjusted. It's okay. But yes, this is our eerie solstice season, the Spooktacalur savings, the Halloween month.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
Oh yes, that's what it was. We were gonna use words other than spooky season. I was like, I feel like I'm missing a bit here.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
And it's because I got such a few hours of sleep last night. And I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to be leading into something and I can't figure out what it is.
Don't worry, you're good. I'm the one I'm taking it off the rails. It's all my doing.
Like a train, would you say?
Like a train coming off the rails.
Like a train. Doesn't he have like an accordion or something?
He has an accordion.
Does he have an accordion? He does. Okay.
He also has like weird Frankenstein like makeup.
Yes.
Even though it doesn't play into the story at all.
Right. Well, that's also me going off the rails and jumping ahead a little bit to what we're talking about today.
It all fits. We're off the rails. This is officially the Off the Rails podcast.
That's right. We're just going to go all in with it. Just go ham on being sloppy motherfuckers.
Yes. I was going to say with that, yes, we are officially in the Halloween season. The next month will be episodes pertaining to very specific Halloween themes and the Aughts.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was pretty fun. We did some cool shit, and now we're doing it again, but a little different. Less blood. Yeah, not as many movies.
Right. Yeah, and I'm kind of excited for this because I feel like the Aughts Halloween experience is more about, ABC Family having their, 31 Nights of Halloween movies. Like, that experience. It's more about, the culture around it than just, a movie here or there.
No, yeah, and I wanted to kind of capture and recreate the feeling of being, a youth or a teenager, and you're, network shows or cable shows having, their whole programming themed to Halloween, having new episodes of Halloween or re-airing old Halloween episodes of cartoons or TV shows or even broadcasting certain movies on television.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole aesthetic and theme, because this was the internet wasn't as big of a thing now. I guess Halloween specials are still a thing, but I think it's so much more that our main source of entertainment was still television. So it felt more seasonally appropriate as the networks and the programming changed to the season itself, and I always kind of loved that.
Yeah, I feel like I've talked to somebody about this once. I think when my nephew was really, really young, and we were talking about not giving him a lot of screen time. and somebody was like, well, I watched TV all the time as a kid and I turned out just fine. And I, like, having taken a psychology and children's television course, was like, yeah, but TV is different now with television, because you've most likely seen those things over and over and over again, and you have no control over the programming. There is a detachment to what you are seeing. There's just a feeling of, like, you can get up and leave whenever you feel like it, or there will be commercials. Maybe, occasionally, maybe you'd watch, like, a new episode or a new original movie on a TV channel that you're excited about, so you're glued to the TV for that. But then that feels like an event. Now, everything that we put on to watch is intentional. We are going to the streaming site, we are clicking on a thing, we are sitting down and watching it.
It's not
So
as
it's different.
much. Yeah, the television was much more of a passive viewing.
Yes.
You would join in, and that's kind of where, like, the water cooler talk kind of mentality came from. Like, everybody tuned into the same programming and would talk about it at work the next day. Whereas now it's like you have so much variety and selection. It's much more interactive and intentional.
And, you know, there's more time for us to be critical because we can, like, go back and watch it at our leisure, you know, not where it's like, okay, it's on now, and then who knows when it'll be on again. Maybe next year for next Halloween, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of why I love watching Bravo TV, because, like, it's something I can have on in the background and enjoy passively, but also, like, it's just great background noise for getting work done.
I can get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now our season has begun, and our first episode, this one was a fun one. This one I was very excited about. Today we're
Me
gonna
too.
today we're gonna talk about some of the best creepy episodes of Hey Arnold.
Move it, football head! Hey, Arnold!
Because there's a lot.
Yeah. We should get into, like, how this sort of organically happened, because it's, like, a very specific thing, and it was a very specific conversation that we had that led to this theme.
Yeah, please do. How did it start?
Yeah, so,
I think I texted you, or how did it start?
Yeah, so you texted me, and you were trying to come up with some, like, really just, like, natural storytelling, like, themed episodes for our Halloween season, our eerie solstice episodes.
Solstice, yes.
Eerie solstice episodes. And this is the eerie solstice miniseries. And you were like, we should break down the top 3 Halloween specials from our childhoods. And then somebody that we know mutually, Dave, posted something about the Lizzie McGuire Dia de los Muertos. Oh my god, I'm stuttering today.
It's all good.
The Day of the Dead episode. And it suddenly reminded me that there were some really, really good Aughts Halloween specials. So I started Googling TV shows from our childhood, and then somehow you and I both separately thought of Hey Arnold.
Oh, yeah.
And we both thought of different Hey Arnold episodes. And then it just sort of dissolved into Hey Arnold talk.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we knew, we were just like, well, let's just do a whole episode dedicated to creepy Hey Arnold episodes. Because there's so many. There is.
There's actually a website. The creepiest Hey Arnold episodes to marathon. 13 creepy episodes. Which we did acknowledge. Not every one of these we would technically make our own. Like, we wouldn't say are creepy.
Right. And then there are some that when I was going through the episodes to look for the ones we chose today, I was like, well, that one's creepy.
Yeah. I would say, like, Pigeon Man is more tragic and sad than it is creepy.
Yeah, the Pigeon Man is just, like, poetically sad.
Yes.
But then there's also another one that I want to go back and watch that seemed scary called The Sewer Man.
Wait, The Sewer Man? How did
I don't even remember that one.
The Sewer Man. That sounds terrifying.
But there are some creepy ones that aren't in that 13 creepy Hey Arnold episodes to marathon.
And that's weird is this list only has the Halloween special as a bonus. Like, hey, if you want to check it out, I'm like, yeah, but it's the Halloween episode.
Right. It is the Halloween episode.
You gotta make the Halloween episode like the main one.
Right. But what's funny too, and I know that this was the same for you, is that when I saw certain pictures of those episodes, it suddenly came flooding back to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like,
So,
we each did a couple, and we're here to talk about them.
yeah. There's one that we both watched because we had never heard of it before.
Yeah, I'd never seen it. I don't know
Yeah.
how we missed it, but I guess that was the nature of television back then. If you didn't see it when it aired, you were not likely to ever... Like, it was that much harder to go find it.
I think that's why, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is that because there's such intentionality with streaming and viewership, that as an audience, we are all just more critical of what comes out.
Yeah.
And even the stuff that is bad, it's all intentionally bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, when I went to go see Moulin Rouge last night, because Broadway's back, baby!
Yeah.
Yay! I was thinking about the movie, and this is, like, a very serious movie with a beautiful soundtrack. Baz Luhrmann has won awards. But I remember during the movie, they do these, like, very silly... sped up like filming scenes where they like speed the frame rate, or they do very silly sound effects, and I just feel like that level of campiness isn't appreciated anymore.
Yeah.
So I feel like now everyone is so like hyper on top of what they're watching, whereas like when we were kids and we would just sort of like let this happen around us, that's actually sort of what created the environment for us to enjoy Halloween as kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I could definitely see what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Like, I think that there are just some things people don't appreciate about movies anymore.
I appreciate them.
Yes, yeah, like, I feel like if Moulin Rouge was made again today as a movie, they wouldn't include those silly sound effects or the sped up frame rate or things like that, because we'd have to take it more seriously. And what I love about that movie is just like how silly it is and dramatic and like campy and luscious it is, like that's what makes it so fun. So like,
I get what you're saying.
I think that yeah, so I feel like that's still important for like art making and filmmaking.
Of course. Now, did you want to start with one of the episodes you watched?
I was going to ask you, do you want to start with one of the episodes that you watched?
I can start with an episode that I watched.
Why don't we start with the actual Halloween episode? Do you want to do that? And then
I'd
we'll get
love
into
to,
the
yes.
other ones? Okay, cool.
All right, so the Halloween episode's a special one. This is one of the this is the reason my brain immediately went to it. I'm like, Hey Arnold had a pretty great Halloween episode.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring to you a special bulletin. A large saucer-like craft of unknown origin is reported to have landed on the outskirts of the city.
Quiet, everybody. Quiet, everybody. Something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Their Halloween episodes from season 2, episode 11. It's Arnold Halloween. I mean, we're breaking the rules a little bit because a lot of these did air in the aughts, and we watched them in the aughts, and they would re-air in the aughts. But this episode's technically from 1997.
Oh, okay.
And the basic premise is that Arnold and his friends are kind of getting sick of the way adults are treating Halloween around them. Because it's Halloween is meant to be fun. It's meant to be a kid's holiday. But, like, the adults are kind of like it starts off with Arnold and Gerald watching, like, television. And then Grandpa's like, you guys got to go to bed. We're planning our Halloween night. Halloween's meant to scare kids, And it's like, no, it's not. But, then we see Helga. Her dad couldn't give a shit less of her existence.
He really could not care less.
So we get the template right there. Like, everyone's kind of mad at adults. The adults are going all out on their, like, Halloween things. But then there's also everyone's tuning into this show called Z-Files. And, well, there's two shows. There's Z-Files
Oh my God, yes.
and UFO Tonight. hosted by
Photo.
Douglas Kane.
As your host and reporter and writer and producer, I will be your guide on your quest to make contact on UFO Tonight.
Which, this is fun. The character Douglas Kane
Mm-hmm.
is based on Orson Welles and is voiced by Maurice LaMarche. I can't say his last name correctly, but if you remember Pinky and the Brain, he voices the Brain.
Oh, I was going to say, I know that name.
Yeah, he voices the Brain, which the Brain is also another character who was meant to mimic Orson Welles. So it's perfect. It's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
And the significance to Orson Welles was his famous radio broadcast of War of the Worlds, which tricked a bunch of people into really thinking there was an actual alien invasion.
I have you seen the Tom Cruise version of that movie?
Yes, it's been so long though.
I did not like it.
It's not a good movie.
No, and then the whole like blood plant, it just upset me, on like a visceral level.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've watched that Ghost Watch movie together.
I love
and
that Ghost Watch movie.
There is something really enjoyable about spooky things that people are convinced are real.
Yeah, like when the broadcast goes wrong, because we're so used to it being like everything's in control, we're watching a broadcast.
Right.
But then to see it all go to shit is a lot of fun.
Yeah. We rely on this source to give us information, and then also something like a radio show. And how are you supposed to know?
Exactly.
There's not enough information out there to know if it's real or not.
Exactly. So the basic plot is that the kids decide to pull a giant prank where the kids in the class would dress up as aliens, and then Arnold and Gerald hijack the broadcast, which is kind of genius. Like, Arnold had some technological genius. I don't understand how they did this. They hijacked...
No, there are so many things that they do throughout the show and the movie that I think, like, how are a bunch of fourth graders capable of this?
Yeah. They hijack the radio broadcast and play out a fake alien invasion and jig the water tower to look like a UFO so that people think that there's aliens landing, and that's when the kids wouldn't trick or treat as the aliens, and it was supposed to scare, just scare Arnold's family. That was the whole point. Somehow Douglas Kane's television show picked up the broadcasted it, and ran with it, and now the whole city is in chaos. And I don't understand exactly what went wrong, but the paint they used for the alien makeup was like permanent latex and wouldn't come off.
And that's why they think that they're aliens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I knew there was something that sensorially was very off-putting for me for this episode for a child, and I think it was that the paint was latex-based, and they couldn't get it off their skin.
It's kind of a claustrophobic feeling. Like, it's like, oh, you're trapped. Yeah.
This thing will not leave your body.
No. Now, this episode, I don't want to give too much more away. I definitely recommend watching it. Some of my favorite bits is like Helga's awful dad is like he tells this weird story. He goes, I believe in aliens because one time why was he in North Dakota? He was like,
I had a close encounter myself once.
Oh, Bob, please don't start.
Happened nearly 20 years ago. I was driving a pickup full of cut-rate Canadian transistors across North Dakota.
I was bringing things back from Canada. And I'm
Tom,
like, yeah?
Wouldn't you agree that Helga's dad would totally be an anti-vaxxer?
He was at January 6th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helga's dad was at the insurrection.
Yeah. with the boys.
I think he was bringing back, like, he doesn't say it, but I'm kind of like, is he bringing back, like cheap, falling off the back of a truck merchandise and driving? Because why is he in North Dakota?
Okay. I mean, it seems likely from the monkey business episode that I watched. In one scene, he gets a phone call because he's a beeper salesman, because he sells beepers. That's his business.
Bob's Beepers. Big Bob's Beepers.
Big Bob's Beepers. He gets a phone call and he's like, what do you mean the beepers aren't working? Well, you signed a non-refundable contract. And I was like, oh, he's just a bad businessman.
He's terrible.
So it seems very likely that he could have just been like picking merchandise off the truck.
Oh, yeah. This episode's just a lot of fun. I really recommend it. Also, there's Grandma is in spy gear for some reason. I understand.
Any episode where Grandma's in spy gear, I'm down.
She just did her own thing. She just had her own side arc. But you know what? I recommend this episode. It's fantastic. It's also one of the rare episodes, because usually Hey Arnold was broken up into 2 episodes, like an A and a B plot.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, it's a full half hour of Hey Arnold Halloween.
I specifically remember Grandma's spyware in the episode where they free the old turtle.
Oh, yes. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Also a really sad episode. The poor turtle. That's also another thing that a 9-year-old should not be capable of doing. I mean, granted, he has the help of his grandma, but also he only has the help of his grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chocolates, nylons. I don't get it. You little worm. You were gonna surrender to the aliens, weren't you?
No, I swear.
Yeah, well, listen and listen tight. Either you grow a spine pronto and join the fight for the human race, or I'll send you home to Mrs. Warts in a chocolate box.
I'm with you all the way. Go, humans, go! Go, humans, go! Fight, fight, fight!
Oh, just sit down and shut up.
I remember for the Halloween episode, like, them ripping off their alien heads. And that also, like, they had trouble getting that off because it was stuck to the paint.
Yeah.
And that was something that freaked me out. You know, because when we were kids, we also had that Goosebumps episode with the mask.
Oh, yes.
And that just was too close for comfort to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, this was hands down, you know, World of Worlds, Orson Welles tribute, spooky vibes, town goes crazy, aliens, Halloween. You can't go wrong. I love this one.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like mass hysteria is like a classic Twilight Zone episode theme too.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Like, all you need to do is just set up a plot where a bunch of townspeople are terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just amongst the chaos.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, my first episode that I watched also kind of tackles the idea of like old-timey spooky stuff. For the monkey business episode, they are terrified of a made-up disease called monkey nucleosis.
Monkey nucleosis.
And I didn't realize how baller this episode is, because they just start off with their history teacher giving a lesson on like false medicine like terminology from the 1800s, and they just start off with like using leeches for blood and getting toxins out of the blood, and I was like, oh dang, like this is where we're starting.
Yeah.
And then he mentions another disease that people thought would turn them into a gigantic rabbit, which seems so weird. And then the images that they used for it were so horrifying. And then they get into monkey nucleosis. And then Helga goes to see someone performing with a monkey. The monkey falls in love with Helga and gives a big wet kiss on her elbow.
Ew.
Right? So she starts to think that she has monkey nucleosis. And I I knew that this episode was scary as a kid, but I didn't realize as an adult how terrifying it was until I just rewatched it. She has this nightmare sequence, and then she plans a funeral with her friends, and they all come to her house like she's having a funeral.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah. And then also, you know, parents who just don't pay attention to their kids. Like, you've got Bob, who is busy planning the next insurrection for this year.
Yeah.
And trying to scam people out of bad beepers. And then, like, based on my experience with watching Real Housewives, you know Helga's mom is drinking the red wine and taking Xanax all day.
Yes.
Like, she is not all there. And it's never really been verified what that is, but we've all just watched Helga's mom just, like, not be approachable or attentive to any of Helga's needs.
No, but when Olga's over.
Right, exactly. Poor Helga. No wonder she had so many, like, attachment issues
And
with people that she
issues,
cared about. Yeah. All of her behavioral issues make a lot of sense.
Yeah, like, honestly, I feel for Helga, because I had to think about it. I'm like, they're unintentionally making Helga feel like she's to blame for their misery, and it's like, no, they're just terrible adults.
They really are. They really are. And then also, you know, what comes up in several episodes is that, you know, she feels like she's too masculine for the other girls, but then when she hangs out with the boys, they're always constantly like, well, you're a girl, so this is kind of a guy's thing that we're doing.
Oh, that happens in one of the episodes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Helga starts to think she has monkey nucleosis, and then in this nightmare sequence, she is a monkey, but she's still Helga, which is worse. This is like David Cronenberg level horror. And she's still talking like a human, and she has the hair and the unibrow, but she looks like a monkey. And they set it up as this sort of like 1800s supernatural scientific discovery presentation. Like, she's in a room with a bunch of white bald men with glasses and mustaches and top hats, and someone is presenting her as this sort of like supernatural scientific marvel. She gets terrified, she runs out. I love that, like, everywhere around her is very 1800s, but when she runs into Arnold, he is still like modern day Arnold. And then she gets picked up by this, what I can only presume to be a stereotypically Italian man with a little music box, who's like,
oh, no.
Oh, my monkey, there you are. And she's like, what? And he's like, oh, come with me, we perform now. And then she just sort of like accepts her fate and starts dancing to the music as a street performer.
That's wild.
And then people are just staring at her. That is the most eerie part of the episode, is like in the nightmare she starts to just accept her form, and it's so unsettling. And then she wakes up, and the steps for monkey nucleosis are so silly. It's like a rash, irritability, and then expiration, which is the word they use for death.
Although what's funny is the show didn't hide from saying death. Like, it's...
No.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just very colorful in their language.
Well, I mean, it is monkey nucleosis.
Right. So once she realizes that expiration is the next step, she calls all of her friends to hold a funeral and, like, bequeath her last items to them. They all show up in black. She gives Phoebe a book that she needs to return to the library.
Amazing.
And then she brings in Arnold, and she's about to tell him how she really feels about him. And that's when Phoebe bursts through the door and says, like, wait, you don't have monkey nucleosis, you're fine. And then she says something like, "Oh, Arnold, you're actually okay. That's it.
You're fine.
You're fine."
You're an all right lad.
But, like, you know, I knew that monkey nucleosis in general, like being terrified of a disease you don't know, was scary enough. It was the moment where she accepted her fate and her lifestyle in the nightmare that really threw me off.
I can imagine. I mean, it's just like this. Also, that would fuck me up. Like, she just becomes a street performing monkey and is like, this is what it is now.
Yeah, and the music is so slow, and we've talked about this in other settings. I feel like with Dead Space, you know, the creatures that come at you aren't as terrifying as the ones you sort of see moving slowly, lurking in the shadows. There's sometimes something more unsettling about something that is slow and deliberate and quiet than something that comes right at you.
Yeah.
So the monkey Helga dancing to this music box as a street performer, for me, was that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was intense. I forgot how terrifying the monkey nucleosis episode was.
Monkey nucleosis. I gotta watch this one. I didn't watch this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then what was the next one that you watched?
Sid the Vampire.
Oh, you did watch the Sid the Vampire
I did watch
one.
Sid the Vampire.
Or Vampire Slayer. Is it a Vampire Slayer?
Oh, Sid the Vampire Slayer. Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
This is season 5, episode 3.
Okay.
This pretty much starts out with Arnold, Sid, and Stinky, Stinky's the best. I fucking love Stinky.
I love Stinky too.
Stinky's the best. I reckon Arnold.
There's one episode, I think it's Gerald who has to get his tonsils taken out. Somebody has to get their
Gerald,
tonsils.
yeah.
Okay. And Stinky is like, "Don't worry, Gerald. If you need tonsils, just come to me. I've got 4 of them. I'm a freak of nature."
Yeah, Stinky is so fucking funny. He's such a good.
Oh, you know what's another episode we could have done? And this would be so appropriate for your activity that you're doing this fall.
Oh, he grows the giant ass pumpkin.
He grows the giant ass pumpkin, and they do it like a Field of Dreams.
And it becomes their, like, hangout house, right?
Yeah, and then it gets gross.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Okay. So this episode, Sid the Vampire Slayer.
It starts out with the 3 of them in a movie theater, which, great start, always a good start, watching a vampire movie. Just whatever generic vampire movie, dorky, corny lines. The vampire goes, "I want to suck your blood," and chases a woman through the house. Arnold and Stinky are having a great time, but Sid is terrified. Sid, that's the common theme in the show, is Sid's gonna be terrified.
I really like Sid.
He's great. Every character is great.
Yeah, every character is great. Even if they're just a small side character, you learn so much about them.
Yeah. They leave the theater.
Sid's got those boots.
Yeah, and they're like, "Let's hang out." And Sid's like, "I'm going to bed." But then Stinky makes the mistake of joking about being a vampire. And now the whole episode is Sid on a vendetta to try and figure out if Stinky's a vampire and how to kill him. It was just so funny. Like, he takes out a book and he's like, he's gonna have fangs, he's not gonna have a reflection. I remember he tries to take a picture of Stinky but is so scared he won't look. Stinky bends down to pick up a book, he snaps the picture. It was using a Polaroid, you know.
Amazing.
So Sid looks at the picture. Clearly Stinky's not in it. He bent down. But Sid's like, "Yep, this is it. This is proof. He's a fucking vampire."
Oh my god. Well, what I love about this episode is it really captures this sort of, like, childlike, obsolete way of thinking.
Yeah.
Or not obsolete, but like, oh my god, what's the other word? Obtuse. Where, you know, when you're a kid, it could be a completely ridiculous thing or a completely erroneous thought, but you just think it's fact.
Yeah.
You're like, "Yep, that person's a vampire. Gotta kill them now."
I also love the bit after the movie, Stinky says, "I reckon that lady should have worn herself a turtleneck." Stinky. Stinky's
Oh my
the
god,
best.
as you just said that, I just remembered that line in the episode.
Yeah. Oh my
His
god.
voice is so funny.
Also, I wanted to point out, Stinky has IBS. He stays away from garlic. Like, that's funny. It's so dumb. There's like, that's my 30-year-old brain thinking when someone's like, oh, I avoid garlic. I'm like, oh, he has IBS.
Oh, poor Stinky.
Poor Stinky. And now his fucking dumbass friend is trying to slay him with a rubber sword. That's right. Sid has a rubber sword.
But that's what I mean. I love that sort of like obtuse way of thinking for children where it's like, I have to do this. Now I'm on this quest to kill a vampire. Well, I guess I'll use my rubber sword.
Because that's all he could get in the moment.
Yeah. And poor Stinky, he can't even eat garlic. And now he's getting attacked with a rubber sword.
It's a very fun episode. I genuinely love it. That's all. I don't want to say much more. I feel like I like bring up these moments. But I'm like, just watch it. Just watch it.
Fair.
They're all on Hulu, everybody.
So my next episode was this one that I completely forgot about until I saw the picture and it brought back the voice. And that's what I find is so interesting about these things that happen where we watch these things as kids and we just grow up and forget that they existed, and then we see something that brings it all back to us.
Yeah.
My next episode is Phoebe Cheats.
Yes.
Which doesn't sound like a big deal, but is so disturbing. So, Phoebe starts feeling like she is not the top dog anymore.
No.
Somebody else's Abraham Lincoln essay gets put on the bulletin board, and she feels like she's slipping. And then they have a poetry contest, and she feels like she is not coming up with anything good, but she needs to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And she plagiarizes because there's nothing scarier than plagiarism. But when you think of just this little 9-year-old who feels pressured already to do well, and I love the dichotomy of her parents. Like, what I really love about Hey Arnold, and I was able to appreciate then and definitely appreciate now, was the, like, cultural diversity of all of the students in Hey Arnold. Yeah. Like, they show Phoebe's parents, and her dad is a Japanese man who cares a lot about teaching her, like, the finer things of life. She does fencing with him in the episode. And then her mom is this, like, white Southern woman. And, like, Phoebe and her, like, cultural, you know, diversity of her own family, being, like, a half Asian, half American child, like, she obviously already has this embedded pressure in her to do well. She plagiarizes this poem, and then she wins the award for the best poem. The B plot of the episode is that Helga anonymously submits a poem about Arnold, and it gets second place. And Stinky also has a great moment in that episode too. And when he notices that Helga's freaking out, and Phoebe wins this little statue of Emily Dickinson that starts talking to her as she becomes, like, more unraveled by the fact that she cheated and plagiarized. So she, like, wakes up in the middle of the night and her statue is on her table, and it says something to her like, "Hey there, Miss Smarty Pants." And I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck is happening here?
What do you want from me?
Well, if it isn't Little Miss Smarty Pants.
You're an inanimate object. You can't talk.
And you can't write poetry.
I can't hear you.
Cheater, cheater. Cheater.
Isn't it do that really terrifying thing where, like, she hides and then she looks and it's closer?
What ends up happening is, like, she brings the trophy home and she's so, like, she's so guilt-ridden by herself that she shoves it in a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
But then after she goes to sleep, her mom comes into her room to tidy up a few things and notices that she shoved the statue into her drawer. So she takes it out and puts it on the table, which just like a classic scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like facing her when she wakes up.
It's terrifying.
I feel like it just has that like classic Victorian element of horror that is just amazing. And it starts like talking to her some more, and she's like, "You cheated! You're a cheater! Everyone will know, Phoebe." So she's like losing her shit as time goes on. She tries to bury it in the sand. She's like, "I'm going to get rid of you and I will never have to see you again." And the statue is like, "Oh, so naive, little Phoebe." And I'm like, oh my God, give her a break.
Just pure torment and guilt.
Yeah, and then the statue still ends up getting back into her possession, and she just can't handle the pressure anymore. And she lets her teacher know that she really struggled with the poetry writing, and she felt like she had to do well. So, in the grand scheme of the episode is truly about the unprecedented pressure we put on our children, specifically children of color who feel like they need to do better for their families.
Yeah.
To exceed and, do better and rise above, that this little 9-year-old snapped.
It is wild.
That is the true horror of this episode, is the academic pressures we put on children.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because that's really what makes her snap in this episode. I mean, yes, the statue talking is terrifying, but obviously it's all in her brain based on, like, the pressure she feels to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
By her family, by herself, by her peers, by her instructors. It's just way too much for one child to handle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it's a great episode. I've always loved Phoebe. Phoebe was always one of my favorite characters on the show.
Great.
Because she's just so smart and so observant, and that if she's like giving you the business, it's because she means it and she knows the truth.
Mm-hmm.
She was so patient. She was such a good friend to Helga that if she ever told Helga off, it's like, okay, I need to listen, because like she puts up with a lot, and if she's not going to put up with something, then it's for a good reason.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's my second episode.
I'm going to talk about, I've been looking forward to this one.
Yes, now it's time.
The Haunted Train.
The Haunted Train.
This one immediately, this one along with the Halloween episode are the two I immediately think to. Mm-hmm. This episode used to fuck with me as a kid because it is, first of all, that song. Yeah. That song is incredible.
Once you mentioned it, it started to kind of come back into my memory.
Yeah. And I mean, like, this show in general does a really good job of taking, like, it does both. It respects children, but also reminds us of, like you were saying, like, how these small little things, we just take them as fact, like, things that are either nonsensical or not important are just, like, either the most dire things in the world to us as kids, or we just buy things as fact. So it's beautiful in that it pays respect to kids, but also reminds us of that young fun and innocence of it. Like, because this episode is literally just like a regular summer's day. And Arnold and Gerald are bored, and Grandpa sees the local train running by, and just goes, "You know what? I'm gonna fuck with these kids. I'm gonna tell them a story about the haunted train." And he makes up, I don't know if he made it up or if it's an old wives' tale. I think it's an old wives' tale where the story goes, train car number 25. The conductor went mad, drove the train off the rails, and drove it straight into hell.
Off the rails, baby!
Off the rails!
Off the rails!
And it got them the whole neighborhood, like literally all these kids from the neighborhood should sit on the porch just to listen to Grandpa tell this story. And it is like that genuine like feeling as a kid, like you're bored, and then just this random story becomes the most important thing for the rest of the day. Because now,
I
go
have
ahead.
captivated many a child by telling a ridiculous story. I made up an adventure about my 2 cats and Bruce Quillis, rest in peace. Like I literally just embellished every possible detail, and it's captivating.
Hell yeah.
It wasn't
Now-
the most interesting story, and it had no plot, but once you say, like, I have this story to tell you, and you're right, like, kids just run with it.
Yeah. And now the beauty of the episode is Arnold and Gerald are like, we gotta go. We gotta see if this train is gonna show up. And Helga's like, well, fuck you guys, I'm going too. And I love how they say, all right, meet up at the train station an hour after the street lights turn on. And I'm like, that is such an amazing way to tell time. Once the street lights turn on, yeah.
That's such a, like, city child way of telling time.
Oh my god, yeah.
You know? Because, like, when you can't tell time yet, you're gonna go by other things, like the street lights turning on, or, like, okay, like, after school, before our parents get home.
Oh my god. So they go to the station. Also, I gotta give credit. I think it's Jim Lang or something like that. He did a lot of the music for Hey Arnold. Like, the music's great, but like,
Oh my
there
god.
was just this eerie, creepy music as they're getting to the train station. It's just building up the suspense. And I'm like, this isn't remarkable. Like, this is really good. And I love this shot where, like, they get to the track and they look down the tunnel, and there's just this long, like, point of perspective drawing how long this track is running of just darkness. And then, like, they wait for the train. Nothing's happening. Gerald sings a pretty cool song. Arnold's on the harmonica.
They say he lost his mind when crazy on that day.
I love the harmonica.
The harmonica. And then you just hear the rumbling, and the train is approaching the station. The train looks fucking incredible. It's this, like, old, like, coal engine train. Dark coal black with, like, red, like, flaming undertones. Like, it is... I think the legend goes, if I'm correct, it goes, the train lures you in with the bright light. Once you're in the train, it shuts its doors, you're trapped. It smells like rotten eggs. You'll hear the most unhuman music you'll ever hear. And once you get to the last stop, you're in hell. And that's when the conductor gets you.
Ooh, it's so good. It's so juicy.
Oh my god.
It's such a juicy plot. And, like, even just, like, the decoration of the train, the whole plot of, like, it lures you in. It's perfect.
It's beautifully animated. It literally, the train pulls up, the doors open, there's just this bright white light, and they walk in, and as they walk in, they become silhouettes, and you're like, almost like they are being transported to another world. But it turns out the train is just a local train for the coal miners at the factory plant. But Hey Arnold's genius plan, he's like, there's a fire hose, we're putting out the fire in hell, baby. We're putting it all out.
I feel like that also speaks to, like, the childlike way of thinking of just like, well, if there's a fire, we'll just put it out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's all hell needed to begin with. That would have solved the problem, like brimstone and fire, just from the beginning. Just take it out with some water.
Yeah, and that song, that wrap up song, like that, I would say, like, Tom Waits inspired song.
Would you say that it could have been at the villain's bar in Trek 2?
Yeah, no, it would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Oh my god, what a great episode. Now,
I love that episode. I did not watch it for this episode, but I loved it when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
And also, like, I feel like, you know, you were talking about the music. I feel like Hey Arnold really captured the essence of, like, a New York City public school kid.
Yeah.
I mean, they live among trains. They take trains all the time. And when you're a kid, trains are like the most exciting thing ever.
Oh,
And
I
then
love
you-
trains.
Right. We love trains now. And then to tell these kids who grow up with trains and see them every single day, oh, there's a train that takes you to hell?
What?
Who does that?
A madman, that's who.
Yeah. It's a great episode.
Oh, yeah.
We did watch Ghost Bride.
Okay.
Which was in the 2000s. That was in the final season.
2003.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why I didn't see it.
I was gonna say, like, that, yeah, that was one of the only ones I have not watched.
I think, because that's the season where, oh my god, they also have the episode where they tell you what happens to Arnold's parents.
I did watch that one. I remember that one. I remember they advertised the shit out of that, and I was like, of course I'm watching this.
Of course. Who wasn't gonna watch it?
Mm-hmm.
We should watch that episode, watch the first Hey Arnold movie, and then watch the other one that they came out with.
They did come out with a new one, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
I had not
and
seen it.
I think it's like somehow tied to his parents. Like, does he go back to the jungle to find
I
them?
think it has to be, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the season that Ghost Bride happens in, which is the last season. And I feel like with a lot of the shows that we grew up with, as we got a little bit older and like the final episodes were airing, that's kind of when you start to miss certain episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that definitely happened for me with the Fairly Odd Parents, Invader Zim. There were a couple of episodes that once I downloaded Invader Zim, our senior year of high school, that I had not seen yet.
Yeah, I mean, also, Fairly Odd Parents, I think, was still going on for, like, I think it was their second longest running show.
Hey Arnold was?
No, Fairly Odd Parents.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a long show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Ghost Bride was a good one. This one was a
Ghost
little
Bride was
dark.
intense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want me to read the urban legend?
Yeah, do it.
So, this all pretty much starts off when, what's his name? Curly? Curly gets jealous because everybody listens to Gerald. Who Gerald is the storyteller. Like, Curly, shut up.
Gerald is the storyteller.
Curly
That's
is
his
just...
role.
I watched Curly and I'm like, yo, this kid's definitely an incel now.
Totally. Yeah, you can't trust anything that Curly says. That man snaps. He literally has like an incel snap in an episode.
Yeah.
He holds the principal's office hostage and starts throwing dodgeballs at people who approach him.
He is the incel number one.
Mm-hmm.
But the story goes, a bride-to-be is left at the altar and finds out that her husband-to-be married her sister at a church literally across the street.
The next day.
Like, somebody would have said something.
Also, like, what a shitty couple that he leaves her for her sister, and then they have a wedding the next day.
Yeah.
No couth. Zero couth.
But she goes mad and she puts on her wedding dress and grabs a big axe from the basement. So walks the very specific 14 blocks to their house.
Yes, 14 blocks.
To murder them in their sleep. And you see this. Like, you don't see the blood, but you see this happen. Like, they're in bed together.
You see the silhouette.
Yeah.
Of the hack.
And maybe the most disturbing thing is when the police arrive, she's humming the wedding tune.
While she hummed the wedding march. Standing forward, they could only watch as she jumped from her chair and leaped out the window, resulting in her demise. They buried her in her wedding dress, right here in this very cemetery. And every year, on the anniversary of her gruesome deeds, she rises from the grave and wanders around among the headstones, humming the wedding march and looking for more victims. The end.
I could have told the story much better than that.
While throwing rice at their corpses.
Insane.
and then jumps out the window and takes her own life.
I need to know what happened at that pitch meeting. Don't you?
Yeah.
Like, I wish I was a fly on the wall during that meeting because somebody had to say, are we sure this is not too much? Or what if it was even worse and then they were like, this is what we can give you instead?
This was wild. Like,
this is the most PG version of the story we came up with.
It's awesome. I loved it. And because they were passing by an old cemetery. Harold is scared. They tell the story.
Oh, sweet Harold. Harold is such a soft boy.
Doesn't he have an episode about his bar mitzvah?
He does, and he stole a ham.
He stole a
ham.
He stole a ham.
I think they even make a joke where they're like, we don't even eat ham. Why'd you steal a ham of all things? And that was one joke that I didn't get as a kid, but now as a grown-up, I get it.
Harold stole a ham.
And I think they have Elliot Gould play his rabbi.
Oh my god. Incredible.
Harold is such a soft boy.
I love Harold though.
Yeah.
Oh my
They play him off like he's one of the bullies, but he's a softie.
No, he's a good boy. He's just stole a ham.
He just stole a ham.
Oh my god. Oh. So this is the episode we touched briefly about how like they're like, we should come to the cemetery at night to see if the ghost story is real. Helga's like, yeah, I'm in, of course. Literally, I rode on the fucking terror train with you motherfuckers. And they're all like, sorry, it's a boys thing only. Girls get too scared. Mind you, Harold says this. The kid who, like...
Yeah, 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Like, obviously Helga can prove she can throw down.
So she has this brilliant idea to dress up as the ghost bride. She uses a croquet mallet.
Yeah.
To scare them. And it's pretty intuitive. She fucking designs the gate to close. Like, it's genius.
Yeah, that, honestly, if I was a child, would terrify me. You go into a cemetery just to check out this urban legend, and then you go to the gate, and it's closed, and there's a chain around it.
Yeah.
I don't think I could handle that at 30.
No.
And also, like, I love the way this show animates makeup, because Helga clearly has, like, the eyeliner and the dark eyeshadow underneath her eyes.
Yeah.
Solid.
Oh my god. And then...
it's a solid plan that she has.
She pulls it off. The boys are freaking out, but it turns out there's another ghost. Another ghost bride.
Yeah. The guys are scared because they're being chased by the ghost bride. That's Helga. And she turns around and she thinks the real ghost bride is following her.
So now these kids have to find a way to escape the cemetery. They trap themselves in a mausoleum.
They trapped themselves in a mausoleum with dead bodies.
Yeah, with dead bodies.
Which I didn't know they were going to actually acknowledge. And then Gerald says, I can't stay in here anymore with these dead bodies.
Oh no, you know remember Harold makes a joke? He's like, can we just hang out here forever? I mean, they've done it. And I was just like, oh.
Amazing.
Harold.
Oh, Harold. Your boy.
We can't hide out in here I think it's someone says we can't hide out here forever. And he goes, why not? They did. Oh my god, Harold. But Arnold, of course. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so to their fear, the ghost is just like walking back and forth, waiting for one of them to leave, like a shark waiting for its prey.
I was going to say, this is when Arnold, as of course he's Arnold, he's the hero. He decides we got to do something. He leaves. Gerald joins him. And this is when Arnold makes his brilliant discovery that the ghost bride was wearing striped red socks.
Classic.
The same dorky ass socks that our incel man Curly was wearing.
You know that Curly now is the person who makes like dumb conspiracy videos on YouTube in his parents' basement.
Oh, he's the quartering.
Yeah, yeah.
The quartering, for anyone not familiar, is a very fascinating YouTube personality. He's kind of an incel, and he peed in his basement.
Okay, I'm glad you actually explained that because I just said yes, and I didn't know what you were talking about.
I'm sorry.
I have this thing where sometimes I just say yes to things, and then I'm like, I don't know what I just did.
My brain went to this guy. He's not an interesting guy. You shouldn't look him up. Your life's better not knowing who the quartering is. I only know... I don't even have to say reasons. But yeah, so Curly... my favorite bit is that they're so mad at Curly, they literally lock him in the mausoleum and leave him there.
And then he starts hearing the ghost bride humming the wedding march.
Yeah. That was my favorite bit. They literally were like, yo, fuck this kid. We're locking him in here and leaving him overnight.
God. I think I'd have a heart attack.
Curly deserves it, though.
I mean, but he probably also uses that as his reasoning for becoming an incel as a grown-up. Like, oh, they didn't understand me. They locked me in a tomb. Even though I was being a dick and I deserved it. They locked me in a tomb.
You're right. He would. Yeah. He would play victim. But yeah.
But Curly's also such a funny character. I love in his episode where he snaps, and he just goes on this like wild maniac rant about Eugene and how like Eugene chooses pencils. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, the thing is that like there's only technically one Halloween episode, but Hey Arnold would cover so many episodes that are actually very frightening and very creepy.
Yeah, well, I think even like in Sid the... I think like, yes, there was only one Halloween full half-hour episode, but like in Sid the Vampire, there's decorations hanging about for Halloween. So like, I think the idea was always there. And like, we didn't talk about some of the other ones, but like, I did watch, just out of morbid curiosity, the Weird Cousin episode, which that episode's it's
the Weird Cousin.
I still can't understand how Lila could prefer your plain, homely, dull-as-dirt cousin Arnie over you, Arnold. I mean, you're no Dapper Dan, but you sure are better looking than Arnie. And you're sure a lot more fun to talk to, but she just likes him better. Look at her glow. Stinky, shut up. What did I say?
In that episode, Arnold gets rejected by his longtime crush. I forget her name. Lila. And he wanted to go see this movie called Evil Twin. Which, I mean, that's kind of the theme of the episode. And I love that everybody hates his weird cousin except for Lila, who falls in love with him. And Stinky's like, I don't get it, Arnold. He just looks like you, but uglier, dumber. He's weird. So and Arnold's like, yo, I ain't having your shit.
Stop dropping truth bombs, Stinky.
And then the best part of all at the end of that episode is that Arnold's weird-ass cousin dumps Lila for Helga.
Amazing.
Oh.
Well, you know what? So I was looking up the air dates for the episodes that I shared. Monkey Business was October 6th. Phoebe Cheats was October 15th. And then Ghost Bride was November 11th. And I do enjoy a little spooky spillover into November.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I definitely think that it's intentional for some of these episodes to come out like leading up to Halloween, but the Alien episode is the only one that is sort of dedicated and saying like this is a Halloween special and it's about them trick-or-treating. That being said, what I also really love about Hey Arnold, I was just thinking about how annoying at first it is that he's so obsessed with Lila and they make it such a plot of the show. But at the same time, what other show or what other pop culture context was telling young boys, like, you will like someone, and that does not guarantee that they will like you back?
Yeah, it's an important... honestly, the episode starts with Lila saying to Arnold, you just don't have that special something that I'm looking for. And then at the end of the episode, she's like, I don't get it. I loved your weird, ugly cousin. And Arnold's like, hey, he just didn't have that special something. You don't have that special
Arnold.
something. Yo,
go off.
king shit.
Yeah. I mean, I at first, like, when I was younger, I was just like, all right, she doesn't like him. Let's go on to another plot. And there's still a part of me that feels that way. But at the same time, I am really glad that they mentioned that as frequently as they did, I feel like that was the first time that when I was a kid that I saw, like, a boy have a crush on a girl, and she would just, like, very honestly tell him, like, I do not like you that way. I am not going to like you that way. And I'm pretty positive her mind never changes.
No, it never does. No, and God, it is an important thing. Like, it is, like, a thing that it's tackling an issue that young men aren't always taught. Like, hey, it's okay. Like, not everyone's gonna like you, and you're not entitled to anything. You're better off finding people you mesh with anyway.
Right.
Like,
it teaches you that, like, you should not be afraid of rejection. Rejection is just a somewhat normal part of life, and being rejected is not an insult or an attack on your masculinity or who you are as a person.
Yeah. And what's weird is we know those guys who are...
everybody does.
They're taught that persistence at no matter what is the best way to go. Right. And you know what's wild is... And obviously, like, these are poor father figures, but also women teach this to men. Like, just be persistent. It's like, no. Why are we teaching them this awful behavior?
Yeah, rom-coms. And, like, a rom-com connoisseur, I can admit that too. But I think wherein lies the issue, and I'm actually going to refer back to 500 Days of Summer. There's a part where they, like, interview Joseph Gordon-Levitt's friends, and one of them says, like, yeah, she doesn't look like all the girls in the movies that I love, or a fantasy girl, but that's okay because she's real, and that's better. I think that for a long time we would see these, like, romantic grand gestures in rom-coms and think that's what we needed from romance. The type of guy who is not confident in himself or understands the nuances of relationships enough to do that naturally or organically are the ones who are going to rely on those grand gestures, but those also tend to be the people that we end up saying, like, no, I don't like you that way, and then they think that they need to follow it literally and be very consistent and persistent with their pursuit, and then that is where there is the issue of, like, I really want you to stop.
Yeah.
Don't deliver my mail.
See, oh my fucking God, yes. I'm leaving that in, by the way.
Yeah, that's fine.
I did want to go back to one of the earlier episodes we talked about the train station, and almost actually another one.
So good.
This reminded me of a creepypasta I read about the other day called the Kisaragi Station.
Mm-hmm.
This story originates, just to run down it quickly, just a fun additional creepy thing. You can find it online. There's video essays about it, and you could just read the original thing on 2chan, which is another, I guess, image-based forum like 4chan. There's a forum called Posts About Strange Occurrences, and there was this in real-time exchange between an anonymous poster who's like, I've been on this train for a while and something seems off. And each post, people are asking, like, what's going on? What station were you at? And she's like, I got on at this station, but it hasn't stopped. I'm trying to head home. Normally there's several stops. I don't know if I got on an express train. And it just drops her off at this random station where there's nothing and nobody around. And it's really creepy and really cool. Like, I was thinking about that while watching the episode, and I was like, oh, that is kind of a creepy thing. Because it's just like, that's the creepiest thing of all, right? Like, you do your everyday routine, and then something is just off.
Right. And, you know, that's a feeling people can relate to. You know, you should be going about your everyday. And I think that's why deja vu can be so off-putting, because it replicates normalcy and reality, and then it just feels like it's going south.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to ask me the question?
Yeah, I will ask you the question.
Yeah, ask me the question.
So, Tom.
Yes.
Tomas.
Yes. See.
Do you think that, I guess these episodes would, oh my God, what is our question? We haven't done it in a while. Do you think that these episodes of Hey Arnold would be as successful today, or would function today as well as they did in the past?
I think they would, because they're really well written, they're well done, and they're fun. Like, I think there is a more accepting audience of adults watching animation nowadays. So I think also, just like I was telling you before, like when it comes to nostalgia, like we're the fucking millennial generation that loves the 90s, and I'll be the first to be very critical of the 90s. But at the same
90s
time,
kids don't even know the 90s, okay? They don't remember the 90s like we do.
No. So there is this inevitable fear of, is this thing actually good, or is it just nostalgia glasses? And I think a lot of the things people praise are never as good. However, somehow Hey Arnold, I think, stands the test of time. Like, it is timeless in that way, where it feels like a mixture of like New York, Chicago, like city living. It's timeless. Like, it could fit in any time. Like, and it's just so well done. I enjoyed it. Like, I watched way more Hey Arnold than I thought I was going to. So I'm glad to say that it doesn't fall down the nostalgia glasses problem. I think it is just legitimately good.
Yeah, I think so too, especially like going back and watching it, kind of like picking up on certain like developmental psychological factors. Like I mentioned, like understanding like Phoebe's family background better, Helga's family background. Like at the time we were just like, adults are jerks. Her dad is business. But like actually understanding it better. I don't think that this is a show that suffers from like the nostalgia colored glasses.
No.
So I think that's good. I think it's a great show. I'm so glad we went back and watched it.
For Christmas, we got to talk about Hey Arnold's Christmas.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. No. I'll have to bring the tissues.
It is an amazing episode.
If you can't cry to that Hey Arnold episode, you got to go see a therapist. You have to go work out some internal issues, because there is nothing more heartbreaking than that Christmas episode.
Amen. It's
also
wild.
A really good example of like things that 9-year-olds are capable of in this show that 9-year-olds normally would not have the resources to do.
We would have the imagination to do. I think that's the key thing.
Yeah.
Everything Hey Arnold does, like, yes, it's impractical, but it's everything that a 9-year-old thinks they can do or wants to do.
Yeah, like their capability and their resources do not match their motivation whatsoever. And that's sort of like the sweet childlike nature of it. Yeah. So Tom.
Agreed.
What has been your obsession this week?
Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
Well, Hey Arnold, and also I'm planning, like I've talked about it briefly, I'm doing the October Pumpkin Challenge again, but this time I'm making an actual new Instagram for it and a TikTok for it. And by the time this episode comes out, they both should be live.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna go with the name that you gave me. I think it's.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think pumpkin spice carving. I think it has to be, like, it includes pumpkins and carving, and that's like the major thing when people search up. Like, I might call myself Tommy Bago Pumpkins, but I mean, it has to be something that it's easy to look up. So that, I mean, unless it changes, that's the plan.
I think pumpkin spice carving has like a nice rhythm to it. But also, if you end up not doing that, you could just put in a funny little bleep and just cut it out, because that'd be funny too.
Yes.
Now I'm excited to see what you do with your pumpkin theme.
Thank you. Now,
This-
what has been
This eerie solstice.
eerie solstice?
Yes.
What has been your obsession, though?
I mean, I already mentioned that I finally got to go back to Broadway yesterday.
Yes.
That was wonderful. I was interviewed for going back to Broadway, so that was fun.
That's wild.
Yeah, and it felt very much like something my dad would have loved because, like, he got interviewed a lot for work. So I was joking that he would have just, like, barreled in front of me and been like, I have been a fan of the arts for much longer than my daughter. She, we're very proud of her in her new job, but also our other daughter went to Berklee College of Music, and Courtney would not have survived her undergrad without her boyfriend and her roommate Julia. Just saying, like he would have loved it. And also I felt like the performers, like, they were just so happy to be performing again that they really pumped it up. And the audience, it just felt like there was so much electricity in the Broadway theater. It was just so amazing. And it was just so amusing to feel that. Like, when you see a movie and you can tell that the actors are having a good time.
Yeah.
It felt like that, but with Broadway. And it was so intense and it was just so wonderful.
Hell yeah.
Separately,
Yeah.
also a childlike thing, button candy.
Button candy?
I had button candy for the first time this week in a long time, and it felt so good.
Why am I having a hard time thinking about button candy?
How do you not remember what button candy is? You get the sheet of paper.
Oh, I remember.
And it's
button
just these
candy.
little dabs of hard sugar that you just peel off like an idiot.
No, I mean, like, I bought Halloween Oreos because
You
it's
did?
that time of... Yes, of course I did.
Are those the ones where it's like still the vanilla cream, but it's just dyed orange?
Yes, but it does taste different.
That's probably the artificial dye that tastes different.
Listen,
But,
it's
like,
Halloween themed.
You know what? Go off, Tom. Go off.
Yeah.
Halloween.
Now I gotta find some Count Chocula.
Eerie
That's what I need.
solstice.
Eerie solstice.
That's right. What are we doing for our next episode?
I know we pitched a bunch of ideas and we have them kind of planned out, but now I'm like, oh no, now you put me under the pressure, Courtney.
I know, I'm a terrible person.
No, you're not. I need to be I need to be better.
Do we want to do the countdown of like our favorite witch movies, or
Yes,
do we
let's do
want to
that.
do? Okay, cool. Because I've got some weird ones.
Let's do it.
Okay. So next week we're gonna do a similar episode where we kind of go back and forth about a theme of one thing, and next week it's gonna be our favorite witch themed movies. Should we do movies?
Yay.
We're gonna do movies.
More movies or TV.
Or TV shows. Let's add TV
or
shows in
TV.
there too. Yeah.
Okay.
I wore an outfit yesterday to the show that reminded me very much of the new Sabrina reboot, and I was like, that show is a dumpster fire, but man, the clothing is...
It was good for a season and a half.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Eerie Solstice. Expect more spooky stuff to come. I'm not going to say the whole thing, John, I promise. You can find us on the Instagram at Remember the 00S Podcast. And if you look us up on Google, you'll find us on most places, preferably Spotify. But I will only judge you a little bit if you try to go to Apple Music and tell us how much better Apple is. Although, fuck you guys. The EU just passed a law saying that every phone requires a universal charging device. And let's just be honest, USB, I don't care what... Lightning bolt is trash. Lightning bolt is garbage. USB-C is vastly superior. You can't sit around and act like your phone is better when you're still using fucking lightning bolt.
You know what? I don't know what any of those words mean, but I'm going to support you and provide the same level of intensity. So that's right, Tom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Off the rails.
Off the rails.
Off the
Android
rails.
users... Last 4 years, Android users have just been watching as Apple reintroduces things that Android has already done, and Apple's like, we invented it. It's like, you didn't invent the camera phone. Like, calm down.
Right.
But whatever. That's my point. I'm leaving it on that. That's all.
Yeah, that's great.
iMessage is not a superior function. It's just an exclusivity.
Yeah.
Then that's it, guys. Thank you.
It's a banana-eating, milk-drinking horror monster. Monkey cat.
That's not scary. That's stupid. I came to this sleepover to be scared, and I'm not. I'm just hungry.
Sometimes late at night, you can hear the whistle wail with a spooky screechy sound, like a wheel gone off the rail. And up in the smoky clouds, you can almost recognize the ghost of a crazy engineer with fiery silver eyes. I said, can't you hear the haunted train?